I want to talk about Alexander Zverev, not because of anything that's happened recently, not because he lost a fifth straight against Taylor Fritz or a fourth straight. I hate that Laver Cup counts, but it does officially. In the Stuttgart final, and I don't have much to say about that. I think that Taylor was unbelievable last week. I called all of his matches, and he was so on point. He beat Zverev in his strengths. Again, he outserved Sasha because Fritz was more aggressive with his targets. And you could see that in terms of who was hitting more aces and who was getting more unreturnables. It was Fritz because somehow he was serving like 75%-ish and actually putting the ball on the sidelines over and over again. Outstanding. He was actually more steady in neutral situations than Sasha, which on paper you wouldn't necessarily expect. He was far more deadly when he had inconsistent and efficient when he had opportunities to attack with his forehand compared to Zverev, who did lose some confidence off of that wing in the second set. And I thought Fritz did an unbelievable job with his block return all week. He faced some big servers in lightning quick Stuttgart, and Taylor on that forehand wing got such a good feel for his block return. Was standing up on the baseline also, so there was a rushing aspect to it. So Fritz was awesome. I'm not here to really talk about that any further. The impetus for this video is actually a Reddit post. Now, I don't read a lot of Reddit, but I do have an email sent to me every morning that's Reddit recommended posts. And normally I get a couple of tennis ones, a couple of coffee ones, a couple of other stuff in there. But something actually during Roland Garros came up in my Reddit email that I get every morning, and I do scroll through that. And the post was Andy Roddick talking about Zverev's forehand technique. And the post said, Roddick eloquently explains why Zverev plays the way he does and why it's lazy to say just be more aggressive. This take has dominated the media in Reddit, commentators, YouTube analysts like Gill Gross, all saying Zverev is playing wrong by being 6 feet behind the baseline, and to come close and swing it, he can't. So before I get any further, let's play the Roddick clip.
He likes being 5 or 6 feet behind the baseline. That's his comfort zone, and he's very good at it. So all you jackholes going, step, he's world class at what he does. I don't think variety for him is a choice at this point. He's not native to, like, he can hit a chip. Everyone can do these things. It's not native for him. His swing is so big on the forehand side, I think it's borderline idiotic to just say, go 2 feet inside the court. No, because then Novak's going to create speed, and then he's leaning back and hitting it, and it's the same result. It's going to be like this little fluttery thing, but then all of a sudden he can't dig in on defense. It's the technique of his forehand, not the intent, that creates this problem for Zverev, in my opinion.
All right, we'll stop it there. I love this point by Andy. I'm not here to argue with anything that he said. I'm here to drive the conversation even further, but I'm not here to argue with any of that because I think it's all spot on. And I love it in two ways. I love the point that he's making philosophically, which is that so often intent and tactics on the court are dictated by capabilities, by technique. Everybody is working within a certain set of boundaries, and the guidance and the governance of the things they do on court are often what they have the capabilities and the abilities to do, what their skill set is. And it's really important, and I try to do it as much as possible, but I think, of course, sometimes I'm guilty of not being mindful of all of that, right? So much of tactics is not what you want to do, it's what you're able to do. So much of it. So in a big picture, like philosophical way, I love that Roddick points this out when it comes to Zverev. In a more specific way, Sasha specifically, well, I was bugged by the Reddit post because I think it's a mischaracterization of what my Alexander Zverev analysis has been in the last 7 years, ever since I've been covering him at the very start of doing this show. I don't think I've ever blanket statement said Sasha should move up in the court. Never. I don't think so. Now, I may have hinted at that possibility after the Djokovic quarterfinal because Novak wasn't hitting 3 backhands in a row without drop shotting. Novak hit 34 to 36, depending on your source, drop shots in the match. and he won 24 of the points. So when your opponent is implementing an extreme tactic, sometimes you need to make an extreme adjustment. In this case, for Zverev, one of the possibilities may have been moving up in the court. But even in my analysis of why the drop shot was working, I was very clear in pointing out that Sasha was actually getting to most of the drop shots. And it was the fact that once he got there, he was too predictable with his chip down the line. He was getting lobbed and passed on the next ball. He wasn't utilizing the short angle cross court. He wasn't utilizing the redrop down the line. And the fact that he was playing that next ball deep was just giving Djokovic way too many options to lob or to pass. That said, if he was able to get to the drop shots a little bit quicker, get a higher contact point, and strike the ball above the net, maybe keep the drive grip instead of having to change to continental, it would have opened up some more options. So that was a whole different thing about Zverev getting drop shotted over and over and over and over again. But in general, I have never called into question his preference for deeper court positions. And I would go even further, not even further, but I would even add to Andy's point about the length of the swing on his forehand. And I would say his movement and his athletic profile also is much better suited for deeper court positions, because I don't think that he has the quickest feet in the world. I don't think he is the twitchiest athlete, but he is long and rangy. And once he gets going, he covers a lot of ground and he plays well on the run. So a big part of Zverev's success in general is, of course, what he's capable of defensively. It's a huge strength. And I think it's largely a huge strength because of his positioning. And if he moved up onto the baseline, he wouldn't cover the court nearly as well, like a guy like De Minaur or Alcaraz, who are twitchier, they have quicker feet, and they're able to, it doesn't take them as long to get going. Whereas Zverev, very long, rangy, does cover a lot of court, but I think if he moved up onto the baseline, it wouldn't really be the same. His court coverage would suffer in a big way. So I think Zverev knows what he's doing, playing 6 feet behind the baseline. Where I think the conversation needs to go further is the idea that you're supposed to get a certain trade-off. If you're buying yourself extra time by standing deeper in the court, something that we saw Stan Wawrinka do to great success, something that we saw Dominic Thiem utilize with great success, something that we've seen Daniil Medvedev in a more defensive way utilize with great success, Rafa Nadal in some ways, although he was very dynamic in moving in and out of the court. We saw Rafa utilize deeper positions at times. So I feel like I'm a big proponent of let's not confuse deep court position with passivity, with defensive tennis, because it doesn't have to be like that. These guys, especially like a Wawrinka and a Thiem, because they've bought themselves extra time to take bigger swings, they are hitting a bigger, heavier, and hopefully deeper ball than they otherwise would be able to. What falls apart with Zverev, not always, just under pressure, just at times when he gets tight, what falls apart is the ball quality. If you're going to stand deep, then you better hit the ball. And Zverev has the ability to hit the ball. He's not the biggest hitter off the ground that you'll ever see, but he hits darn big. And that two-hander is one of the biggest. It's when he gets tight and he decelerates and he puts the ball in the middle of the court meekly and weakly and centrally under pressure in big matches, in slams. It happens way more often based on what the scoreboard says. That's where I say, all right, there's a problem there. And Zverev has said himself, like ATP Finals last year at a press conference, he was like, yeah, the biggest thing that's held me back in big matches against top players is I can get tentative on the forehand. So this is not a controversial thing. It's not his positioning. It's the ball quality. The ball quality falls off. It has nothing to do with where he's standing on the baseline. Where I've critiqued Zverev is when everything starts going cross-court middle and the forehand down the line just disappears, which can happen in tense moments. When he's not unlocking the pace and the depth that he is capable of, because we see it all the time. When he's not letting it fly, he's hitting it tight. That's where the criticism comes in. It's not about his positioning. And because it's situational, it just makes it pretty easy to see. We've all seen Zverev hit big off the ground. Not just for a point, not just for a match. We've seen it over the course of entire tournaments before. And usually when that's happening, especially on the forehand wing, he becomes like just insanely difficult to beat. It's the fact that in big matches at majors, it slows down. Everything slows down and gets more attackable and less dangerous and less threatening. That's the criticism here from me. It has not the court position. So I think Andy makes a good point here, and I just wanted to set the record straight. Not because it matters to set the record straight, but hopefully you guys just found this interesting. No Monday Match Analysis in full this week, but we're going to do a coach's mailbag later in the week, so look forward to that. Hope you enjoyed. Don't forget to subscribe. I'll see you next time.